Good morning, everybody. This is Mike Hewman from G2M Research, and welcome to our webinar, Supercharging Your MySQL Deployment, Performance, Scalability, and Efficiency, sponsored by PlyOps, and we have panelists from Oracle and AMD as well. Before we jump into the meat of the webinar, let me kind of go through the ground rules and everything. So our agenda is right here. You can see what we kind of go through is why is accelerating SQL important? And then we'll have Grant Jacobson from PlyOps talk about their acceleration solution. We'll also have Adam Rice from Oracle talk about Oracle's perspective on things. And we'll have Dilip from AMD talk about what AMD is doing with it. After that, we'll have a couple panel questions and audience surveys, and we'll do a Q&A and wrap up at the end. A couple quick ground rules. We will be recording this webinar, both the audio and the visual. We typically get the link from Zoom late in the day today. We'll go through and edit it. And on Thursday, we'll send a link to everybody who's a registrant, as well as with a PDF of the slide set from the webinar, so you'll all get that. Second thing, we're using Zoom's Q&A capability. If you have a question, please use the Zoom Q&A feature to put your question in. All the questions are anonymous, so feel free to ask whatever you want. There's no dumb questions, no issues there. And then finally, there'll be a couple audience surveys during the webinar. These are also done using Zoom's audience survey feature or poll feature. So those will pop up on your screen. Please go ahead and answer them. Again, just like the Q&A questions, these are completely anonymous. Don't feel like you can't answer them because somebody might know your answers. I don't even know what your answer will be. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in, and I'll kind of walk through why is accelerating MySQL important. So MySQL has become one of the most widely used relational database management systems that there are out there, and it's used across a number of different use cases, whether it's just standard relational database or the backends for things like retail systems or e-business intelligence solutions, whatever the case may be. It has a wide range of usage. And Oracle has really worked on extending it to give it high availability capabilities as well. Obviously, for HA, you want high performance. As you can imagine, storage performance has a huge impact on MySQL performance. So even in systems with Flash, if you don't lay out the storage and do the storage correctly, you can have big performance problems. If you think about it, more transactions per second is great for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it speeds up your business, but it also lowers overall TCO. And the final thing about accelerating it is if you use acceleration correctly, you can reduce flash wear, which is really important of extending the life of the underlying storage system. Databases do a lot of reads and writes. They can be hard on flash, so anything you can do to kind of ease that up is always a good thing. And with that, let me introduce our panelists. So our first panelist is Grant Jacobson. Grant is Senior Director of Alliances at PlyOps. We also have with us Dilip Ramachandran. Dilip is a Senior Director of Product Marketing at AMD. We also have Adam Rice, who's the MySQL Alliances and Channel Manager at Oracle. And I'm Mike Hewman. I'm a Principal Analyst for Storage and Data Center at G2M Research. And with that, Grant, let me go ahead and pass you control and introduce you. So, Grant, take it away.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks to my colleagues for being here. And let me welcome everyone to this session here. It should be very interesting. A lot of MySQL users out there, and lots of interest in how to accelerate the database, how to get more out of your investment. And I'm here to talk about how we at PlyOps are doing exactly that. So let me go to the next slide here and talk about our wait, can we go back, Mike, one slide? Getting ahead of myself. There we go. That is our Extreme Data Processor. It's a low-profile PCIe card that works in any server and with any SSD. And what the card does very well and uniquely in the market is to manage the data flow between, in this case, the MySQL database and the underlying storage in the node. So there's some specialized data algorithms with what we call data shaping to actually give that acceleration, to also scale the capability, as well as protect the data in a number of ways, and I'll get to all of that. Overall, the way to think about this is to understand that putting this card in the database server unlocks huge value, both at a technical level, but also, as Mike was alluding to, better TCO, better performance, density, better economics, essentially, because we're getting more out of the infrastructure. So we're eliminating the inefficiencies to deliver this better value. No changes are needed to the system. No changes are needed to MySQL database. You just plug in the card and it does the great value. So moving to the next slide, this is really the solution and the kind of bottom line here that we're here today to talk about. On the left here, we're showing you some tests that we did with Oracle, comparing the community-based MySQL without an XDP card on the left in the blue bar, and comparing that to the Oracle MySQL Enterprise Edition with XDP. And we're showing you 2.75 more queries per second. So QPS increase for that combination. So it's more queries faster. And by the way, this test was also with AMD Epic server. This is on the bottom right here. We're showing you this was a Dell 7525 with AMD Epic 7543 32 core processor. So there's the specs there on the bottom. But the bottom line is much more faster. And also, in addition to the performance acceleration, there's also scaling benefits. So we're doubling the number of instances on that node. We're also doubling the capability to support more users, twice as many users. So essentially, a lot more work is being done with the same Oracle license, and overall cost reducing your MySQL setup. And this extends linearly as you add more nodes. So how do we do that? So back to the XDP card here. So it's really about performance acceleration, transactions, and queries, but also with the integrated hardware RAID 5 capability, we're giving much more reliability. This becomes increasingly important for a lot of customers because you know, having performance acceleration without data protection, or even if you lose your data, it doesn't matter. You know, if your data isn't protected and good, then the performance doesn't count. So there's integrated reliability here, resiliency for the data, and I'll talk more about that. Mike talked about wearing out flash. That's important, and we have basically both the wear level protection, but also capacity expansion with this card as well. We unlock that capacity that's in those drives. I'll talk more about that, how we do it, but up to 6 times more capacity is available here as well. That's important for the larger size MySQL data sets So instead of buying more flash, we add the card and get that capacity that way. So overall, much more efficiency for the operation with a lower total cost of ownership. And we talk about our XDP really with these kind of feature capabilities. So for the acceleration, this is our XDP XLDB. XLDB is the best-in-class universal database and storage software accelerator. That's the first level on top. Below that, we're showing you XDP RAID Plus, and that's our data protection layer that is built into the card. That's for data integrity. RAID Plus for, it says NVMe SSDs, certainly, but also SAS and SATA if that is your setup. And then below that, we're showing you XDP Excel KV, KV for key value. And that is really a key value accelerator for those applications running KV. So I think of PlyOps XDP as a data services acceleration platform that delivers a number of these capabilities. So just to drill down a little bit for XLDB here, what do we mean by acceleration? This is, think about this in terms of higher throughput, lower latency, which is the other half of performance. And certainly from a CPU utilization point of view, we're offloading from that CPU to handle the storage stack capabilities within the card. And so that CPU is now available to process other things better. And I also mentioned the capacity expansion. That is also part of this feature capability. In terms of the RAID Plus or the data protection here, that is the best-in-class integrity, data integrity, and RAID solution. If you are familiar with RAID controllers, this really overcomes the limitations of these conventional RAID controllers that have been around for a long time. We're actually unlocking more performance, we're unlocking more protection, and while it's accelerating application performance and delivering that extra capacity as well. So that's 12x better than traditional RAID. That's a pretty phenomenal number right there. There's also ultra-fast SSD rebuild when that's needed. I'll talk more about that. And then there is the better endurance, SSD endurance for a longer usable life. So that is a lower cost. So you can take existing TLC SSDs or even QLC SSDs today and get more from those in terms of the endurance, in terms of capacity, and even performance out of those SSDs. When we're managing that data flow between the database and those SSDs, that's one of the benefits that we get from our XDP card. So just a couple more slides here, and going to highlight one of these benefits, which is the ultra consistent MySQL database performance. Even with full drives, the typical practice is not to fill up the SSDs. And that is because when that is done, as you can see with the blue line here on the graph, the performance, in this case, it's write performance, degrades pretty quickly. And so the best practice has been not to fill up the drives. With PlyOps XDP in the system, not only can you fill up the drives, but when you do that, you're not going to have a performance hit or a penalty. You actually get high performance and consistently. So your experience with database, MySQL database is predictable and consistent, and that is a SLA and a requirement increasingly these days. So consistent performance, predictable performance while filling up your drives. If you go from the 6% up to 100, that's basically TCO benefit right there. And as you buy these larger size SSDs, this becomes even more important. The other side of that, of course, is if you're in a drive fail situation, how do you recover from that? Again, with the importance of SLA and QoS these days on database, getting that drive back fast is essential. And so what we do is, unlike a typical RAID controller that rebuilds the entire device, we only have to rebuild the data that's been impacted. So instead of a typical 35 minutes a terabyte rebuild, and again, imagine a 30 terabyte drive, we're doing this in 7 minutes a terabyte. This is unique and a huge value, especially with those larger capacity SSDs. So 5 times faster than traditional RAID, with minimal impact on performance during that rebuild. So maybe 20% during the rebuild. So again, we protect that performance with a much faster rebuild. And again, it opens up the possibility of using these higher density, larger capacity storage drives that was previously unavailable, or people were just really worried about taking a week to rebuild a drive. So those are a couple of highlights there. This solution is available today. If you like more information about that, certainly your Oracle MySQL sales rep will have more information. You can also, if you work with Insight, contact them or your preferred reseller to get this solution. Certainly PlyOps, we're available, sales@plyops.com. And by the way, we are promoting XDP with Oracle MySQL Enterprise Edition. When you get Enterprise Edition, for example, upgrading from MySQL Community, we're offering a $500 discount on the XDP card, and that's available today at Insight. So let us know if you're interested. I think that's my last slide. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues at Oracle and AMD. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Let me give it, Adam, to you. You should have control now.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Adam Rice. I'm with Oracle. I'm the MySQL channel. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a few different slides of why MySQL and where we play in the market. And let me go ahead and try to advance the slide. Yep. Hopefully I just did it once. I clicked on it a few different times. So there we go. So quick safe harbor. Just want to get the legal aspect out of the way quick. And I'll pause on this just for a second and let everybody read it. Just a safe harbor statement. Perfect. Okay. So if anybody attended Cloud World or tuned into it virtual, obviously one of the key speaker is Larry Ellison, comes on, and his commitment to MySQL, it just kind of blew me away. And all the announcements he had about databases and healthcare and the new acquisitions of Oracle, the first thing he talked about was MySQL. So the commitment from this company in MySQL to further advance it, it's just phenomenal, and it's very strategic. So strategic. You can kind of see, and this is a third-party site that shows it. So MySQL is the #1 open source database, and the only database that's more popular is actually Oracle's autonomous database. So popular that we're seeing over 200,000 downloads a day for the free version. That's the community version. So a lot of companies have it. And some companies that are just starting out as far as proving out an application or development are using these. Just an amazing amount of downloads that we're seeing. Apologize, I got a little bit of build, so I'm just going to go ahead and build this through because there's a little bit of latency on my side here. So 70% of Oracle's customers actually are using MySQL, and obviously that's higher than the Fortune 500. So this is a great opportunity for companies to look at it. It's like, where can we start getting performance increases? Where can we reduce costs? Where can we take advantage of, like Grant mentioned earlier, is where can we fill up the drives and get better return on performance? And this is a great way to do this. Anybody that has community, we'd love to have that discussion with you to upgrade to enterprise. And PyLapse with MySQL is a great story to tell. So just a little bit about the industry and where it's going. We see 70% of IT increasing their spend over the next couple of years towards open source. And open source databases are growing faster than any other database. It's just truly remarkable in this environment. Just a little bit about the free version of it. And we're always trying to give customers compelling reasons why to upgrade from community to enterprise. And you can see over on the left, we have community, enterprise, and then we have our high-end 6.9s up database. That's our carrier grade edition. We're going to focus on the first two just for this segment. So you can see the downloads that we have are 200,000, as I mentioned, a day. But there's always a compelling reason why to upgrade. And these databases kind of start out, again, as an IT proven out of application or development. And then quickly we see them grow to 30, 60, 100. We have some customers running to supporting applications. Eventually, some of those applications even make it outside the door that they're supporting external customers. And we're always kind of telling everybody, you really need to put security encryption around that. And security is one of the major reasons why we're seeing people upgrade. So we're always trying to give people and clients the benefits of doing that. So you can see all the function and features that come with enterprise. It's a compelling reason to upgrade. But there is one reason that that I like to mention around security, and that's a lot of our customers that are using the open source, the freeware community. When customers are leaving or employees are leaving or terminated, if they're using the community version of it, they if they're using Active Directory or something else to manage those credentials inside their company, it doesn't actually go back into open source MySQL and purge those. So if someone knew the IP address and still had obviously still have their credentials in there, they could still go back and in. So there's some major security risks around open source, especially exposing it or even using it enlarging companies. So just a couple of reasons why, and you can see as Michael mentioned earlier, high availability is also another major reason why our customers are upgrading to enterprise. So just to look at the market and where we're playing. So from large to small companies, but here's some of the ones that in different industries that are taking advantage of MySQL. A lot of them are still running community, and we're coming across it. Like I mentioned earlier, we're seeing 60 to 80 servers supporting different applications. So it really made sense to team up with PyLapse. When we started having a conversation with Grant and the rest of the team, we're always looking for compelling reasons why our customers should upgrade from the community to enterprise. And obviously the ones around security and high availability are definitely a major draw, but the other ones around performance. And we started working their engineers with our engineers, and we started doing some testing and benchmarking. So we really put Grant and his team through the ringer to use some industry standard, and we have those tests available. If anybody would like to see that, or even set up a session with us, we can share those performance increases that we've experienced. So this is a great way for someone that's running community to save money by taking advantage of the drives, increase their performance, because we've seen a lot of remote workers needing that access to database and more queries. So this is a great way and compelling reason to do it. So this has just been a great partnership, and we obviously we're here to help POPs and help our community realize those efficiencies. So that was my last slide. Michael, I'll give you back control.
Thank you much. And let me get Dilip, let me get past control to you here real quick. Okay, you should have control, Dilip. So Dilip's with AMD. He's the Senior Director of Product Marketing. Dilip, you can take it away.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dilip Ramachandran. I'm part of AMD's server business unit. And today, what I'd like to talk to you about is the Epic product line that is being tested and featured with PlyOps and Oracle MySQL. So moving on to the next slide. Sorry, take a minute here. Here we go. Okay, so what I'd like to start off with some of the challenges that are in the enterprise. We've worked with, with a wide variety of ecosystem partners to incorporate leading edge performance as well as reduce the total cost of ownership for our customers. And in conversation with a number of IT leaders in the industry, we identified some of the key challenges, starting with IT infrastructures. IT infrastructure, there's increasing workload demands, and it's not just keeping the infrastructure running, but also improve efficiency. So IT infrastructure leaders are constantly worrying about how do they improve productivity while delivering unique insights on the information that they have available. The second area is around data management. With the explosion of data from edge to cloud, IT leaders are being tasked to transform data into actionable insights in a quick amount of time. And there's ever growing need for compute, and this is basically resulting in being able to, deliver shorter development times and improving quality and customer satisfaction at the same time. The last area is around security. As you know, security is a very key part of every technology out there, and defending threats in real time has become a major pain for customers to address in the enterprise. So with that in mind, we developed, with these challenges in mind, we developed the Epic third generation processor. I think we went one slide too far. So it was launched in 2021, Q1 of 2021. And when it was launched, it was the highest performance processor out there. And we really worked on certain targeted workloads, including hyperconverged infrastructure, but also relational databases and data analytics. And we developed the CPU with these features. So as you can see here, Epic 7003 processors feature up to 64 Zen 3 cores. And for customers that have the previous generation, second generation Epic platforms, you can upgrade to the third generation Epic processor with just a BIOS update. It has several advanced security features as well, and support up to 8 memory channels. And in terms of cache, etc., it's leading edge in terms of available L3 cache. So this processor was launched in 2021 and was again featured in the testing that PlyOps did on MySQL. Now, since then, we've also introduced the fourth generation Epic CPU that was launched in November of last year. We continue to extend the compute performance leadership in the industry. The fourth generation Epic, which has 96 Zen cores in 5 nanometer, and it has 12 channels of DDR5 memory, which provides leadership memory bandwidth, as well as next generation I/O in terms of number of lanes of PCIe Gen 5, up to 160 lanes. And we also have the ability to expand memory with the CXL interface. And then more advances in confidential computing to be able to support memory encryption and virtualized memory encryption as well. So we have all these features available in the fourth generation Epic CPU, which is in production and was launched in November of last year. And to give you an example of the performance leadership that we have delivered with fourth generation Epic CPU, I'd like to walk you through a slide that talks about the performance on MySQL. And on the left-hand side is the popular TPC Edge benchmarks, which essentially does ad hoc queries to help answer business operation questions. and make informed decisions. And the test is done on an AMD server featuring 4th generation EPYC. It's a two-socket AMD server. And compared to, on the left-hand side, is the Intel 3rd generation EPYC Xeon 8380 processor. And in the case of the TPCH benchmark, and we used HammerDB as a workload to drive these performance data, you can see that the 4th generation EPYC processor performs 2.7x faster in terms of decision support queries. And on the right-hand side, you can see here the TPCC workload, which talk about transactions per second, delivers 2.4x higher performance than the Intel 3rd generation Xeon Platinum processor. And you can see here that with these kind of more transactions per second, you can essentially reduce the number of servers that you use, saving power, saving energy, as well as overall improving TCO. Now, the test is done on a virtualized environment. You can see here, you're comparing on the Intel Xeon side, 10 containers of 8 cores each versus 24 containers of 8 cores each. And the same is true for the TPCH and TPCH benchmark, and TPCC benchmark. So this gives you an idea. Again, this is done without any acceleration. We are working with PlyOps to repeat this on the 4th generation EPYC processor, and you would see with the PlyOps acceleration card, this would be even a magnitude higher when it delivers additional performance overall on MySQL. Now, in terms of the industry ecosystem that we work with a wide variety of hardware platform partners, OEM partners that are listed at the top. I won't go through all of them, as well as we have a number of cloud partners as well, key cloud partners that have more than 500 instances based on AMD EPYC. And then on the solution side, you can see a broad range of ecosystem partners that we work with. Highlighted here is obviously Oracle and PlyOps. We have very deep relationships with both of them to optimize to the AMD EPYC processor and particularly to the MySQL benchmark, so and performance. And this is my last slide, just to complete with the AMD EPYC processor. We've delivered more than 300 plus world records on multiple generations of the EPYC product family. And it ranges a wide variety of applications, from business applications, ERP, SCM, kind of business applications, enterprise energy efficiency, which is very key for sustainability in financial tech, as well as data management analytics, and then we have infrastructure, HCI, software-defined infrastructure type bench workloads, and then engineering, HPC type applications, and content and digital services. That concludes my presentation. I'll hand it back to Mike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dilip. Let's see, let's go now. There's your legal stuff. It's always important. So right now we'll do the panel discussion, but to kick that off though, we're going to launch one of our 2 audience survey questions. This should pop up on your screen. Take a couple minutes to go ahead and answer it. And while you do that, we'll jump into the first panel question. And that question is, what new capabilities does an accelerated MySQL database enable for businesses? We'll start with Adam, then go to Dilip, and then to Grant. Adam, go ahead.
Sure, thanks, Michael. Hey, so when looking at acceleration of databases, we're seeing a lot of remote users starting to hit the database and needing that uptime as far as the queries. So with a solution like this really helps give those end users and management the tools that they need by reducing that time to market and be able to make those decisions. So it's really a cost performance issue, as well as the hardware case of taking advantage of those drives that we can actually have complete storage on, offering the capability of RAID 5. So it really does help us complete the overall solution.
Dilip, what do you guys see from your perspective as far as how accelerating MySQL can help things out?
Yeah, so what we see is that, accelerating MySQL provides tremendous total cost of ownership value for our customers. And, by doing so, you would be able to consolidate into fewer servers that burn less energy, and overall provides better sustainability, better TCO, and better value for our customers. So this is a key area that we are working with PlyOps to highlight. And we believe that acceleration provides tremendous value to our customers.
That's a really good point on the energy side. I'm sure that as we increase power density within data centers, anything you can do to back that off a little bit is never a bad thing. Grant, what do you have to add to that?
Sure, I'm going to agree with Adam and Dilip here completely on that, and add I guess another idea around TCO and efficiency. When accelerating MySQL database, we're talking about getting more out of that existing infrastructure. With the PlyOps XDP card, as I mentioned, we're making really optimizing that data infrastructure that already exists on-prem, and we're getting a lot more out of it in terms of that acceleration, but also the protection with the RAID Plus capabilities. So when accelerating MySQL, don't forget about the other requirements around protection. This is the integrated RAID Plus capability, as well as the underlying SSDs holding that data in terms of endurance, in terms of capacity expansion. So I'd say a more holistic approach here is what's needed.
Very good. All right, with that, let's go to audience survey question number 2. And that question is, when considering MySQL acceleration technology, how would your organization typically purchase or acquire this technology? This is a select all that apply. Let me go ahead and launch that question. Again, it would be up on your screen. All the answers are anonymous, so feel free to jump in and give your opinion. With that, let's go to the second panel question here. And this one, we'll go ahead and start with Adam and then go to Dilip again and then Grant. And the question is what are some of the best practices or things to avoid on the other side when accelerating MySQL instances in production environments?
Sure, Michael, thank you. So one of the ways that we've really helped customers is just to do what we call as a health check. And that's understand how you're actually going to deploy MySQL, what environment it is. And then we can kind of share best practices to make sure that you're taking advantage of all the functionality. We've done numerous sessions for different customers, and when we go through all the functionality to make sure that everything's turned on as far as the security, encryption, they're taking advantage of the high availability, it really takes kind of a session to make sure they're using all that capability that comes with it. So kind of sharing those best practices, we're open for a conversation to kind of bring those best practices to you.
Dilip, what do you guys see on the AMD side as far as best practices go or things to avoid?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think as I talked about earlier in my presentation, IT leaders are constantly, under pressure to add new workloads, deliver high performance, improve efficiency. And one of the best practices I would recommend to our listeners here is that making sure that you always are upgrading your hardware and looking at all the available options out there in terms of which hardware provides you the best TCO value, best performance, whatever your requirements are. Maybe it's about saving energy, and look at all the other available options and make sure that you are on that latest available set of technologies. The other part of it, I would say, is that, again, making sure the second best practice I would say is that also using solutions that are being proven. And for example, in this case, we've worked with Oracle and PlyOps. Now we have a solution that's fully integrated. You don't have to worry about optimizing it, etc. So being able to just deploy it and go hit the ground running. So proven solutions that are running on leading edge hardware was one of the best practices I would recommend.
Excellent. Grant, what do you guys see as things to avoid or things to do when you're trying to accelerate MySQL?
Sure. Well, one thing to avoid is not running your MySQL without PlyOps, because you're leaving money on the table. You're actually missing the opportunity to save about 50% or to get a 50% TCO benefit, taking cost out of the MySQL setup. So that's a best practice, is to think about that. Think about how to get more out of your setup in terms of more queries or transactions per second. Think about how to make it more efficient. But also, as I say, acceleration plus the data protection with the integrated RAID is also important to just protect that data. So I would say that's a good way to think about it.
Very good. All right, now we're into the audience question part. We have 2 questions so far. The first one, I'll let you guys just jump in and answer this as it makes sense. It's a 2-part question. That is, can you have more than one accelerator in a given system or CPU? And is there a value or best practices or best approaches for doing so?
Yeah. So for the PlyOps XDP card, depending on the amount of data in that server, that's going to be, today we're doing up to 128 terabytes per XDP. If your data set is larger than that, you can add another card, assuming there's a PCIe slot available in the server, and usually there is. And we've got customers running up to, I think, 3 cards, so 384 terabytes in a single server with 3 cards. That number will go up in the future for us, but that's where we are today. That's a lot of data and works really well.
And I guess, Adam, from the standpoint of the database, I know back from the days when I was an engineer, it was a long time ago, but you typically, when you're laying out your database, you want them to not stripe it, but kind of strategically put different tables on different storage devices. Would you say the same thing would be true with an accelerator? And in other words, you try to maybe give one device for your high traffic things and move some of the lower traffic ones around or something like that?
I would have to defer to one of our SEs. And the reason I'm saying that is because they're the ones that really have the best practices of how different customers are set up. So we would definitely entertain a session together and kind of go over that, review what the business requirements are, and then make our best recommendations for that.
Excellent. Dilip, what do you guys see? I know one of the big advantages of the EPYC processor is the increased number of PCI channels that you have. I'm sure that helps in this matter as well.
Yeah, you read my mind, actually. I wanted to highlight the fact again that AMD supports the leading number of lanes, PCI lanes. And where it matters is essentially you're able to, obviously use, in the case of 4th generation EPYC, up to 160 lanes. And, you can have multiple NIC cards, you can have multiple acceleration cards sitting side by side. Actually, what we're looking at is also expanding memory through that PCIe lane, so which are essentially work as CXL lanes as well. So there are a number of opportunities that AMD brings to the table in terms of available technology options out there, and PCI connectivity is something you don't have to worry about on an AMD-based server.
Excellent. Our next question is, if somebody were interested in running a proof of concept on this, is there an easy way to go about doing that? So that assumes that they're using MySQL today. They want to look and see how they could accelerate it.
Or even if they don't have MySQL, we can actually get a free download, and we can definitely participate in that.
Excellent point.
Yeah, I'll just say, we're all working together here. PlyOps is an Oracle partner, working also with AMD, and that setup is available for a proof of concept, a POC. Just let us know of your interest, and we can talk to you about that. Just reach the Oracle MySQL sales rep, or you can get plyops at sales@plyops.com.
Very good. Last question is kind of follow up on the first question. In MySQL HA implementations, all right, do you have to be concerned about how you use an accelerator, or is it pretty much transparent to the MySQL database implementation?
So in part of our testing, our SCs, actually, we put it in a cluster. So it pretty much was drop and play. So it really started taking advantage of all the MySQL and started advancing the performance of it. So Grant, I'm not sure if you want anything else from your SCs that
No, that's exactly right. In fact, it's linear, where if you have 2 nodes for high availability, you can add additional nodes, each one with a plyops XDP card, and it just scales easily like that. And that is with the Oracle Enterprise Edition, which supports the cluster like that. And so it's really that simple. I'm trying to think of something else to add, but it really is that simple.
That sounds pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Excellent. Oh, we have one more question. I'm sorry. The question is, when talking about 2x users and 2x plus capacity, is it a function of plyops compression? I guess, Grant, that's probably a Grant question.
Yeah, that's a Grant question. Yeah, so the question is around scalability, and the scalability does show up not only from the ability to compress the data. That's certainly true for extending capacity, where we have inline compression for the uncompressed data that's in there, but also how we actually manage that data to support more users. So it's the entire management of the data flow that gives us those benefits, including the acceleration.
Very good. All right, with that, again, thank you, everybody. We'll send out a copy of the slides and a link to the recording the next day or two. Thank you again for your time, and we'll be having another webinar with plyops on April 12th. We'll send out that information to sign up for that when we send out the recording and everything else. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.